Hello dear friend, I welcome you to my channel. At this time, we are going to learn how to troubleshoot and then fix a faulty industrial fan. So before this video ends, you should be able to learn how to diagnose and then fix a faulty industrial fan. Alright, so this fan was working perfectly the previous day, but all of a sudden, it just won't work again. Well, for now, I don't really know what the problem is, but we are going to troubleshoot it gradually. First of all, before we open any part of this industrial fan, we first have to be sure that there is electricity supply available at the socket where it is plugged. Here is the socket where it is plugged, and then if the switch goes on, it's supposed to turn on the fan. But usually there is a switch on the industrial fan here. So after turning the socket on, we also have to turn on the switch here, and it is not working. So now we are very sure it's not actually working. Okay, if it's not working, the basic problem in this situation could be that the breaker that supplies power to this socket has tripped or has switched off. And so the first thing we need to do is to check if there is supply available in this socket. Now, in checking to see if there is supply available here, we could use the tester to do that. But then, tester in this case would not be advisable because we need both live and neutral to be available here. But this tester can only tell us if there is current flowing in the live wire or not. It cannot tell us if the neutral cable is okay or not. So for instance here, the live wire is continuous, but this tester cannot test if the neutral is continuous. And so to enable us to ascertain if power is truly available here, we need to use the multimeter or the voltmeter to check. This fan needs 220 volts to work. And so if we are able to test 220 volts at the supply, then we are very sure the problem with this fan is not from the supply. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so first of all, we need to set up the meter for the testing. We can measure up to 750 volts AC here. In this circuit, we are expecting a maximum of 250 volts. And so the best voltage to select for this testing should be 750 volts. So we tune this one to 750 like this. Okay, so here 750. Then we need two probes or two leads on the meter for the testing. Black one always connects to common, and then the red lead will connect here like this. Okay, so now our meter is set for testing. Switch off the socket, and then we use black here first, and then here like this. Then we have to switch on the instrument. Here we have 0 volts because the switch is off. So now when we turn the switch on, it should read the amount of voltage available here. So here we have 236 volts. That is enough to have turned on the fan. And so for now, we are 100% sure that the problem is not as a result of supply unavailability. So then we continue to diagnose to find out what the problem is. All right, so here we have been able to clarify that the supply available here is okay, it's intact. And so we move on with the troubleshooting. The next thing we tackle is the plug on the industrial fan. This plug also has a fuse in it. And so we would also have to check if the fuse here is intact, because if this fuse breaks, there wouldn't be any power supply to the fan. So before we move on to open the fan itself, we first have to check if this fuse is intact. So we remove the fuse like this. And so as you can see, the fuse that is protecting this industrial fan is 3 amps. 3 amps fuse. Let me remove it so you can clearly see it. Okay. So this is the fuse. And this is 3 amps. So if the current flowing through this is more than 3 amps, it can blow this fuse. And when this fuse blows, there wouldn't be any power supply to the fan. So the next thing to do is to check if this fuse is working. All right, so let's do that and then we continue. So before we continue, we have to be sure if this fuse is also working correctly. We set the meter to continuity and then switch it on. So I expect that if the fuse is working, I expect to hear a sound like this. If the fuse is not working, there wouldn't be any sound. All right, so here we have this here and then this here. All right, so now we are very sure that there is a problem with the fuse. This fuse has broken. And so what do? We need a replacement. Okay, now in replacing this fuse, you don't just use anything at all to replace this fuse. And so what I'm going to do here is that I would have to look for another fuse that is rated exactly the same to do the replacement. Otherwise, you would either be underrating the fuse or overrating the fuse. Normally, what people usually do is that when it happens like this, they will get some strands from a cable like this and then use it to bridge the ends of the fuse. If you do that practically, you will get continuous power to the fan, but you are risking the lifespan of the fan in the sense that a lot of calculations have been done to come about selecting this 3 amp fuse to protect the fan. And so if you use anything at all to replace this fuse, what you are doing is that you will either be underrating the fuse or overrating the fuse. Now, the danger with overrating the fuse is that the circuit will not be able to open in case of a fault current. And then that fault current can easily spoil the motor of the fan, which is far expensive than this fuse. And then when you use a wire or a strand of wire that is far less than 3 amps, what you are doing is that every now and then you would have to be replacing the fuse. And so the best way to solve this problem is to get another fuse that is rated 3 amps to do the replacement. I have a couple of fuses. I'll look through. If I'm able to get one, that will make this work very fast. Luckily, I'm able to get a similar fuse. This is actually the same type of fuse that is rated 3 amps. Okay, so this is 3 amps, and then this is also 3 amps. All right, so this is the best replacement for this fuse. Let me on the meter and then we check to see if it is really working. So this old one, we tested, it wasn't working. This new one, and this new one is working. So I'm going to replace the fuse and then we try again to see if that is the only problem that is preventing the fan from working or if we should go ahead with the troubleshooting. So for now, we have found one problem, and luckily, we have also found the solution to that problem. So I put this one here. We put this old one aside, and then we fix this one back into the plug. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to plug the fan again and then switch on the supply and then we observe what happens. That could only be the problem that is preventing the fan from working. There could also be another problem. We have now replaced the fuse, but then there is one thing we need to do before we actually plug it to supply. Because as it stands now, we do not know what exactly caused the fuse to blow. This fuse could blow as a result of a short circuit inside the fan or the motor. It could also blow as a result of a surge in the supply voltage. And so before we plug it again, we have to check to ensure that the fuse did not blow as a result of a short circuit inside the fan motor. All right, and so I'm going to check continuity between the live and then the neutral. If there is actually a short circuit in the motor, I am expecting to hear a sound like this. If there is no short circuit, I'll have some ohms value. So this is live, this is neutral. Okay, so if you observe, you can see from the meter reading. So you can see that there is no short circuit in the motor. So now we are sure that if we plug this, it's not going to blow up again as a result of a short circuit in the motor. All right, so I have to plug it again, and then we check if that solves our problem or if we should continue with the troubleshooting. Plug it back to the socket, and then we switch it on here. There is another switch here on the fan, so we have to turn it on and then see what happens. So it goes 1, it's still not working. 2, it's still not working. 3, it's still not working. Okay. So this simply means that the problem is not only with the fuse. We have replaced the fuse, but still it's not working. So we have to open it and then see what the problem is. Okay, let's unplug this one from here. All right. All right, so before we go ahead to open the fan, we should have an idea of what we are looking for. So the first thing we'll check is that we'll check if the blade can freely move. So we want to try that first. And then some other problems that could also prevent the fan from working are 1, a bad capacitor, and then 2, a bent or broken wire in the motor winding. So these are the things that we are going to open the fan to check. We check it one after the other until we find and then solve whatever problem is preventing this fan from coming on. All right, so let's do this together. So first of all, let's open the fan. We remove the guard. Oh, okay. So you can see that the blade is quite free to move. So definitely the problem we have here is not a lubrication problem. All right. So we go ahead to remove this other guard also. But first we have to remove the blade. We remove the other guard also. All right, so now we open up to have access to the inside of this so that we can check the capacitor and then the motor. All right, so we turn the back here. Then here, we have to remove this nut from here. And this requires a spanner for removing. Okay. And then next, we remove this screw also from here. To enable us open the back. Okay, that is quite simple. You see, there is a problem with the capacitor. You can see the capacitor is very bad. That is the capacitor sitting there. And obviously, it is not in a good condition at all. All right, so at this point, the capacitor is also bad. And this is a 4.5 microfarad capacitor, plus or minus 5%. And 500 volts, 50 or 60 hertz. All right, so we have to look for a similar capacitor, just as we did for the fuse replacement. We have to get the same capacitor for replacement. All right, so we have to get one of these for replacement. All right, so luckily I got the same type for the replacement. So 4.5, 4.5. All the values are the same, 500 volt AC, 500 volt AC. All right, so I got a good replacement. So we replace and then we try again. So we see whether this brings us to solving our problem or we need to go ahead. So here, this will connect to yellow. And then here, this will connect to the blue and the black, like this. Okay, and then we fix it back just as it was. All right, then I have to find these two. Okay, all right, so now I will have to fix the switch so that we try and see if our problem is actually solved or if there is something more to do. So if it works, that brings us to the end of our repair work. If it doesn't work, it means we need to open the motor to find out what the problem is. Okay, so we plug in. We would have to try and see if it's really working, if the problem has been solved, or if we need to go on with the troubleshooting to check the motor. Okay, on. All right, so work is done. Switch off, switch on. All right, so we have been able to solve the problem and our fan is back working. So we fix it back and then we test it again. Start fixing anything at all. We remove this from the socket. And then whatever we removed last will now come first. So here we have to put back the cover. But before then, we have to fix this one here. Have to. Okay. Then we use our spanner to tighten it. Tighten it properly. Okay, that is done. So we push this in. Then we fix back the back screw. We put back the regulator. And here, put this back. Okay, then we bring back the guard. This connect here. So we bring back the blade. Then finally, the second guard will come. Okay, and that is set. And then we can now test our fan. So we plug it to the socket. We turn on the switch. Then we turn on the switch here. And there you go. Correct. Okay, so that is beautifully done. And we are done with repairing our industrial fan. Friend, thank you very much for watching this video. Please, if this video has been useful to you, kindly share with your friends, click on the like button, and if you have not yet subscribed, kindly do so you get notifications for my upcoming videos. Thank you very much. Stay connected.